Right, fellas, are you all recording? Episode 4, let's go!
Look, sorry, Tim. I hate to say this, but there's something we've got to tell you.
What? What's up?
Look, I went to publish episode 3 and I sort of couldn't find it.
You couldn't find it?
No, well, I spoke to John, the studio manager, and he looked a bit shifty, and he said, "I know nothing about missing episodes."
And when I was in there picking up my parcel, John took episode 3 off the pile, and one other item, which I'll tell you about later. He said he just wanted to dust them.
Eh?
Look, we've come to the conclusion that it was stolen to order after word got out that it was here, I'm afraid.
What? Hang on. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would he just take episode 3? What about episodes 1 and 2? Why would he just take that one and not anything else that was there? You know, the computers, the bust of JMW. If he was going to risk his job, he'd do it properly, wouldn't he? And take everything he could. Even my wallet was in there.
Ah, that was the other item.
Oh,
Don't worry, Tim. We've saved the day. You're going to love this. We've worked through the night on this reconstruction.
Eh?
So sit back, Tim, listeners, and enjoy episode 3 of the PMF Grumpcast, the Moffat years. So, on this first slide, we have me and Tim dressed as Madame Vastra and Jenny.
Well, you're very good as Madame Vastra, Tim.
Thank you, Mark.
Here's Mike with coffee coming out of his nose, laughing at one of my jokes.
Yeah, that room like the computer, that one.
This is Mike interviewing JR about how anyone who doesn't like Moffat probably would have voted for Hitler.
No, hang on, fellas. Look, I appreciate that you're doing your best, but this just isn't working. You can't polish a turd. So why don't I just ring the Facebook Missing Episodes discussion group and ask for it back? Hello. Hi. Well, in the end, I rang the Facebook Missing Episodes discussion group and they said, "We know nothing about missing episodes." So they're clearly banged to rights. Shall we have another go, chaps?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in episode 1, Mike and I got into the Moffat era a little bit, and then when Richard joined us for episode 2, he felt that we needed a bit of balance because we were being intolerably cruel towards little Moffat-y Waffety. So what we'll do, if this sounds okay with you two, is have a talk through the era. We'll read out a couple of emails and notes along the way, and then at the end we'll sort of well, I know others have scored the era in terms of a school report, so I think the 42 to Doomsday guys gave the Moffat era what I thought was a very generous C+. Generous, Mike?
I think so.
Too generous, Richard?
C+, I think that's probably fair-ish. Maybe the plus is a bit on the optimistic side.
Bit of a turd polish. I've got to stop saying turd polish. So keep an eye on your scores, fellow, as we go throughout, and then using our own Planet Mondas Forum unique scoring system, we'll deliver our own scores at the end and see if we're in some sort of agreement.
Yeah, Tim, a couple of weeks ago you floated the theme of this podcast on Planet Mondas Forum, and the debate's been going on ever since.
It has, hasn't it? It's still going.
Have you had a look, Richard?
I have had a look, and what's more, I've digested some of the discussion. I'll bring it up at the appropriate point when we come to those parts of the discussion.
Okay, well, we'll see if our opinions are borne out in the PMF comments. That should be quite interesting.
Yeah, although, Tim, before we do, one of the notes we had was from Huey, of Huey Logic fame, from down there in Tinseltown in Sydney, and he asked, should ratings either up or down inform about the success of Stephen Moffat's Producers Run? What we've decided is not to look at the ratings, Huey, because they fall throughout the era, and that's against the backdrop of a change in which TV is viewed and a period of general falling TV viewership. So, yeah, sorry about that, Huey.
And the other thing is, Ginger Cat said it'd be really boring if we looked at figures.
True.
Although, what I might say, and I don't know if there's any accuracy of the science to this, but the Christmas episodes seem like a decent snapshot to me.
Mm.
Because you'd think that has more of a traditional viewing pattern. I don't know, but I think people still gather around and watch the TV on Christmas evening, after dinner and.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like the Christmas service at church. It's the way that we bring people in, and it's the shop window of the show. So if you're not interesting people at Christmas, then you haven't got a lot of choice, a lot of chance of bringing in new viewers any other time.
Yeah, and Tennant, the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, the final Tennant episode had 12.2 million people see him off. And it was just 7.9 million saw Capaldi off. Mm. So that's a heck of a drop, I think.
Yeah,
and there's no question that Doctor Who was a big thing in this country. During that period, during the David Tennant era, start of Matt Smith, it was a big thing. I mean, it was almost. It was hard to believe, really, as a long-time fan, that Doctor Who would be a thing that people were interested in, but they were. There's no question.
Toys in the shops.
Yeah.
Toys in the shops everywhere.
Look, there were all those misty-eyed schoolgirls who just loved David Tennant. They used to watch it in their droves.
Yeah. Anyway, should we start off with a look at Series 5 and 6?
Okay.
Yes.
Why not?
So here's some thoughts from Planet Morris. Here's some thoughts from Planet
Morris
Mondas.
Forum.
Yeah, Planet Morris. Hey, calm down. Here's some thoughts from Planet Mondas Forum on Stephen Moffat, Series 5 and 6. Ian Kay said, well, the first series was good, and Matt Smith was good to start with, and Karen was great, and beyond that, I'm out. Chat with Wings didn't quite agree. He said casting Matt Smith was where it all went wrong.
Oh,
really?
Liz R said that she thought the self-indulgence began to kick in around the middle of the second Moff series with Let's Kill Hitler.
Yeah. Bit late, that.
Yeah, Hecky Poo said it went downhill from the Impossible Astronaut onwards. Self-indulgence became the order of the day.
Yeah.
The Ginger Cat said it went wrong for him when Matt Smith began farting about with the fez on his head.
Oh, we are perfectly aligned, the Ginger Cat and I.
Mr. Barusa said that the problem was complicated scripts, and sometimes it would need several viewings to work out what was going on.
Yeah.
Zarius said he thought it was noticeable with Victory of the Daleks, a Gatiss story. Although, interestingly, Zarius actually enjoyed Let's Kill Hitler. Fair enough. And Torchwood said, add me to the list of people who say the Big Bang is where it all went wrong. He spent an entire season building up an arc to a huge climax in the penultimate episode for it to be a huge cop-out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there seems to be an unspoken agreement there, and I don't know if we share that agreement, that Series 5 was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So thoughts on Series 5?
Look, overall, I think it's pretty good. It starts off, certainly the 11th hour starts off pretty well, actually. It sort of doesn't finish that great, and I thought that Olivia Colman was sort of wasted in the role in that episode. But I thought that, the introduction, and particularly, and the thing that I really loved about it was the character of Amelia Pond, who I thought was an absolute delight every time she appeared.
She was absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty good, and I thought, this looks okay actually when I first watched it, and I thought, this could be okay, because of course we're all full of hope at that time. Because Moffat had taken over and he'd written all those, probably some of the best stories of the RTD era. And then, it was patchy in places. Victory of the Daleks was awful, and the Daleks looked terrible. And, I sort of didn't go for Vincent and the Doctor all that much either, because I have this thing about Richard Curtis these days. He just sort of writes all this schmaltzy, sort of mawkish stuff. No, the rest of the series is pretty good.
They could have called that one 4 Paintings and a Suicide, I suppose.
Yeah. And, I guess the other highlight of the whole series was, apart from the crack in the wall, was Rory dying every 5 seconds, which seems to be a bit of a theme that throughout the Moffat era about dying. But Rory dies in practically every episode, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's not quite that bad, but it's close to it. You're going to get me going if you start talking about the dying too much. I get really frustrated in that. I don't think it's necessary that they keep that that anyone has to die in these episodes. But if they're going to die, then I wish they would actually die and not be brought back. I mean, that's just unrealistic. So you have all the emotional impact of the death, and then next week they're back, so you can have all the emotional impact again. Except, of course, you can't.
Okay, then, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm funnily enough, I'm not sure that I liked it as much as you two. In that I've given it the lowest score out of all of them, and I mean, basically because I found it a bit uneven.
It was uneven, yeah.
So I really loved The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone. Time of Angels and a bit of Flesh and Stone, to be accurate. And then I don't know. I found the rest of it quite uneven. I hated Victory of the Daleks. Thought the Beast Below was uninspired. 11th Hour, as you said, really good at the start, really poor at the end, I thought. Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, a bit kind of, I've seen it all before.
Yeah.
It's funny with, I've been thinking about that Silurian two-parter, because I think last time we talked about it, I think we all agreed it was obviously a clone of the Silurians. But it's done so much worse, with so much more money. So the scale of it, to me, lets it down. And that you've got this one family in this Welsh town or valley or whatever where they're drilling. But it is just a very compact cast of 5 or 6 characters. When they do it in the Silurians on a shoestring, they've got the army in there. They've got this entire feeling of a research centre where it's all going on. And then they open it out to London, and there's a very genuine sense of threat that this disease is carrying around the capital, with a little bit of location filming of old what's-his-face?
Jeffrey Palmer.
Jeffrey Palmer. Euston Station or wherever it is, and then collapsing against the railways. And I thought that was a real contrast in storytelling and confidence and suspension of disbelief that they achieve so much more in the Silurians. Anyway, sorry, I've interrupted.
I was just going to talk about Amy's Choice. I thought that was an interesting one, because I mean, at least it tried to tell a different story, and it was kind of only partially successful, but at least it was an interesting.
And
try.
also, the Lodger was something different too.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm going to be very positive about the Moffat era for the first year. I thought the intro was great. I thought it was really humorous and pacey, and I thought Matt Smith was brilliant, and I liked the ending, and it was contained. I wasn't really keen on The Beast Below. I've never been fond of it. I don't like the feel of it. I don't like the look of it. I don't like the design. Victory of the Daleks has the first appearance of Love Saves the Day. We'll get used to that.
Yeah. It's just shocking in every way. Really.
I thought it was quite intriguing. The first half, the Power of the Daleks rerun, I thought that was good.
So I said, I agree with you. Promising start, but it just all gives way.
Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone. I've given thoughts on that before. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay, but it's I really don't like River Song, which is a problem for me with this era, obviously. And then I really like The Vampires of Venice. I thought that was just a classic format, self-contained
I quite like
adventure.
that.
I thought it was really good, nice setting, and that's followed on from Amy's Choice, which is different. Is that Simon Nye's only credit? It might be, but I wish he'd have done more.
Yes, I agree.
But some really good 2 episodes there where I felt it was really getting traction. And then the Silurian 2-parter, we've talked about Vincent and the Doctor, which I thought was fine. It was doing something different. It was trying to broaden the audience. Which is odd, because trying to broaden the audience in one episode, and then he seems to spend the next 5 years trying to narrow the audience. And then I watched the Pandorica Opens and walked away thinking, wow, I thought that was great. I know you two think that all the monsters turning up at the end was silly.
No, I thought the Pandorica Opens was pretty good, but
I didn't think it was pretty good. I thought it was brilliant. And then what a long way to fall. Bloody hell. That he was written off then, unfortunately. A complete load of guff.
I was going to say I was really quite excited about the conclusion to the series, because there'd been all these things, dropped through it. There was the crack. There's the exploding TARDIS. It kind of felt like there was going to be some brilliant explanation. And I mean, maybe there is, and I'm too daft to work it out. But I always felt like it kind of fell away to nothing, and in the end, Amy ends up wishing the Doctor back into existence. And I thought, is that it?
And then Rory goes, "Oh, the Doctor! Yeah. How can we forget about the Doctor?" And it's like,
is Rory an Auton or isn't he? Yeah. I mean, it's all just a bit kind of.
It's very disappointing.
Yeah. We had the first abuse of time in that one. I've got this thing where he's very careless of time passing, and so he can just throw any number of thousands, millions of years into a storyline to try and give it some sort of false perspective or something, and that's the first time he does it, where Rory has stood guard for 4,000 years or whatever it is, and I just think, you just can't associate yourself with the character at that point, because you've never had to do anything like that. You'd probably go mad. Plus, we don't know whether he's an Auton or a human, and it just takes me completely out of it when he does that, and he does it a few times, and I'll point them out later on. And then it's just a bonkers story. I can imagine Moffat being very smug. He's sort of daring you to try and follow the twists and turns of the timey-wimey thing, and it's just not. I mean, I'm with Mr. Bruce on this. I think it's too complex. Oh yeah, what a letdown. Yeah. Series 6.
I tell you what killed it for me was when Doctor Who magazine turned up, and it said one of these 4 characters is going to die in the course of the first episode, and I just thought, oh no. Because basically, right, it was the Doctor, River, Amy or Rory. Well, if it's Rory, he's already died, so what's the point?
Oh, River Song died in her first episode, didn't she?
Exactly, so she's already died. If it's Amy, well, okay, that's new, but so I don't really want her to die, and I really, really don't want the Doctor to die. So is that's it? Is it? That's the big thing for this series.
Well, let's deal with the story arc, the Moffat episodes last, yeah, because and just pick out the one-parters or the other writers, and then we can deal with the arc as a separate matter, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, Christmas Carol. I
liked it because I thought it was good for Christmas.
Well, I didn't like it. I just thought it was very slight and dull, to be honest.
I didn't like it. Everyone rants about it. I don't really get it. It's very dark. I mean, in design, it's dark and it's boring and it's. I love Michael Gambon, but I just thought it was just a bit staid and dull, and I didn't really like the fish, and it just felt a bit. I didn't like the Catherine Jenkins thing either.
Catherine Jenkins, it was just singing as well.
Well, I'm not averse to singing per se, but
are you going to list all the other things that you don't like?
I think I've covered the entire of the thing. I didn't like it, Richard. Anyway, and then moving through Curse of the Black Spot.
Didn't like it.
I liked it.
Oh,
I like the first half.
He liked it. It was shite.
Rory dies again, by the way.
Oh, okay. Hit again.
Sort of.
The Doctor's Wife, highly rated.
Somewhere between brilliant and terrible.
I didn't mind this at all.
Am I right in saying we have the first flag of a female, male to female?
Yes. Yeah.
Time Lord regeneration with the Corsair.
Yes.
Rory dies again, by the way.
Yeah.
Does he? Why does he die? How does he die?
He's in the TARDIS corridor.
Oh,
he just gets older and older, and then he falls down or something.
Yeah, he's like Michael Palin's Monty Python guy, isn't he? If you know what I mean.
He is.
It's that guy. And then the two parts of the Matthew Graham Rebel Flesh Almost People.
Forgettable.
Well, yeah. There's a little bit to say about this. Certainly in the second part, when the Sarah Smart Gunga goes all weird. It gets all, I don't know whether you've seen that film From Beyond, but it's sort of like that without any of the kinky bits. This sort of ludicrous human monster thing running rampant. But
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll Google Sarah Smart, and then based on that, and you're mentioning kinky bits, I might go on and watch it.
From Beyond, it's there's plenty of people who made Reanimator. If you've ever seen that, so you probably get an idea about what it's like. But it's very much like that in some places with that sort of monster thing running around. But it was better than Fear Her. Can I say that? It was better than Fear Her, which was Matthew Graham's previous one.
Oh, was it?
So it's better than that. But there's a positive thing in this about the...
Oh, talk about damning with faint praise.
I know. There's a positive thing in here about the Moffat era, particularly in the first 2 seasons, is that he gives some good parts to Scottish actors. When I was growing up, we used to watch stuff on TV. My mother, being Scottish, she always used to complain that the Scotsman was always the bad guy. And in this, that actor Mark Bonner, he actually has a sympathetic part for a change. They usually play sort of shifty Scots types.
Right.
But he actually has a sympathetic part here. And there's also Caitlin Blackwood, who played Amelia Pond, who's very, very good. And of course, Karen Gillan. So they're great parts in the first 2 seasons for Scottish actors for a change, in which they're sympathetic and you actually like them rather than think they're going to rob you.
It's almost as if we've got a Scottish showrunner.
Yeah, funny that. Yeah, it almost is, and it's actually that's a good thing to say. Well done, Stephen. You did well there.
And then we've got Night Terrors, The Girl Who Waited, The God Complex, and Closing Time.
Night Terrors, it was creepy in places, but the ending was a bit, love conquers all.
Yeah, saves the day.
Didn't do it for me.
Yeah, it was a bit sort of. Yeah, it had moments. It wasn't as bad as Victory of the Daleks, and certainly not as bad as.
Oh, yeah, more of your faint praise.
It was better than Fear Her.
Sleep No More, anybody? Look, it's passable. Okay.
Yeah, it's passable. It wasn't the worst, was it? But then I think 2 rather good ones. So the God Complex, but before that it was The Girl Who Waited.
Yeah, I actually really liked that one. I thought that one was actually really, really good.
Yeah,
it's one of the best individual stories, I think, of the whole era, really, in places. I really like that one. Although, you say, Richard, that the ending was a little bit predictable.
Well, I mean, the fact that they would kill Amy was, or they didn't really kill her, but they spent all this time agonising apparently over what they're going to do with Amy when you know what they're really going to do is get rid of her because it suits the story for that to happen. But nonetheless, I mean, it's a story where time actually plays a part in it. And it's clever, but it's not too clever. I like that. Yeah, stylish as well.
And the God Complex.
Yeah, the God Complex was good too.
Yeah, I thought it was. The Shining meets Doctor Who. It's really unsettling in places.
Yeah. It is, yes.
Closing Time.
Well, it sort of didn't work the second time, did it? Now, James Corden was okay, but the Cyberman thing was a bit. Yeah, it sort of didn't help it, I don't think.
But at least love saved the day.
Yes.
I felt quite sad for Gareth Roberts watching that. Because I quite like him. I quite like his style a lot of the time, and I thought the previous one was very good. So they're all the standalones, and I think that for me, anyway, the standalones are quite interesting and unique and well done. But then we have this arc of the Impossible Astronaut through to Day of the Moon, and then A Good Man Goes to War, and then Let's Kill Hitler, and The Wedding of River Song.
Well,
I hated it.
Well, okay. let me try and find one positive thing for you, which is I think the silence or silence. I'm never quite sure which they are. It were a really good idea. I mean, and they were.
They were really, really creepy.
Yeah. And
they were really quite scary, and they were used effectively early on. Yeah. After later on, it gets a bit silly.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, I don't think the break helped at all, and I think that this is where problems started to set in. For Stephen Moffat is that he was doing too much. He was doing Sherlock at the same time, so he's taking breaks to do both shows, and I think that didn't help either of them. And I think that's when the rot really starts to set in.
The the other week or a few weeks ago when we started doing these podcasts, I thought I'll try and write down all of the Moffat era stories that I could remember the titles of without cheating, and I made some notes alongside, just things like, Victory of the Daleks, that seems to be the first appearance of Love Saves the Day and all that. Anyway, on my little piece of paper here, for Let's Kill Hitler, it just says complete shite.
Yeah. I really didn't like it at all, and it's just funny how Mel's turns up from nowhere. So no one's ever heard of her before, and all of a sudden, there's their best friend Mel.
You're supposed to be invested in the character, aren't you? You're supposed to be invested in the character to have this great shock that it is in fact River Song, whereas I have no investment and no shock it's going to be River Song.
I call this the Starsky and Hutch effect, because it always used to happen in Starsky and Hutch that they'd introduce at the start of an episode some character and they say, it's my best mate Mike. I went to school with him. We've been out for him for a drink with him every week, and he
gets killed.
Oh, obviously, he's going to get killed by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to be tried to have this arc, this Stephen Moffat contribution to Series 6, but I can't think of anything good to say about it.
I'm particularly the Wedding of River Song. I've got a lot to say about that, and none of it is. Well, no, there's one thing of it that's good, but it just is the essence of everything that is awful about this particular period. I mean, it's impossible for the casual viewer to understand. If you switched it on, it just means nothing to you. There's so much time spent, in exposition, and it's all gobbledygook anywhere. And then there's one shining moment, which is a nice little epitaph for the Brigadier about 10 or 15 minutes in. And the rest of it. I mean, what does everything's happening at the same time even mean?
Oh, is that the phone to the phone call to the nursing home?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He's found out he's died.
Yeah.
It was just after Nicholas Courtney passed away, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That was a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it was. So why then does he proceed to trample all over Nicholas Courtney's grave later on? But
good question. Well, because
he doesn't trample on it. He opens it up, heaves him out, sticks metal on it. Anyway,
pisses all over him.
But worse than that, at the end, Amy's a murderer. I mean, she basically shoots a whole bunch of the Silence, machine guns them down, and then she kills the Francis Barber character. And it just doesn't really ring true to her character.
No.
And even then, the ending is incomprehensible until the Doctor has another exposition scene with Dorian where he explains, that he was really a Tesselector all along. But but how is time fooled by that? I mean, basically he's trying to fool the concept of time by dressing up in a Tesselector suit. I mean, how's that going to work?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
There is yet another irritating thing that starts to appear. I'm not sure it appears in Series 5, but in Series 6, something that really gets on my wick. I don't know if it bothers anyone else, but it really winds me up, is this contrived mythos that starts to creep in, either expressed in a fairy tale or a poem or a legend. I suppose we had it with the Pandorica, actually. It started there. This Pandorica, this legendary prison box thing. And then Good Man Goes to War. It's all wrapped around this poem, isn't it?
Yes.
Angels Run When a Good Man Goes to War, or whatever, and then we have the song in Night Terrors that comes in, which is Moffat weaving this, and it really gets on my tits. So sorry to talk about my tits on the podcast, but it really does. It really grates with me. I just don't feel it's genuine. I can't suspend my disbelief with it because I know it's this half-cooked mythos that's being put in. Anyway,
no one else is going to talk about them, so you might as well.
Well, you'd be surprised. So that's Series 5 and 6. I think we sort of agree it's a good start-ish. And then troubling time.
Yes. Hits stormy waters.
I was very quickly irritated in Series 6 because I was hoping that the Big Bang would be a blip. It would be a mistake, an experiment that didn't quite work. But then we were straight back on the horse with the Impossible Astronaut. So I was really seething by this point, by the end of Series 6. Right, so that's series 5 and 6 done. Let's mix things up a bit. Richard, do you want to have a dive in the old mailbag there?
Yes, indeed. So I've got one here. Dear Three Who Grump, I have some big news for you.
Ooh!
I was at the recent Phantom event in Chiswick, and Phil Morris left something behind.
Oh.
I was still around while they were all packing up, and I found a small exercise book.
Does it have a list in it of missing episodes?
Well, let's read on. I couldn't believe it when I opened it. On the first page, it's headed My Convention Playbook by Phil Morris.
Ooh.
Oh.
And it then has a list of plays.
Okay.
Number 1. Start by describing the discovery of Enemy and Web in Joss.
A different way each time.
It doesn't actually say that in the letter, but I'm sure it's a given.
Okay. What's next? What's next, Richard?
Number 2. Mention another find such as Sky at Night, Morecambe and Wise, or Basil Brush.
Oh, boom, boom.
Boom, boom! Number 3. Refer to another country searched and then change the subject quickly.
Oh, yeah, okay. Ask me about Hong Kong. No, I'm not going to tell you about Hong Kong. That sort of thing. Yeah, okay. He never actually said that, but that's what I imagine he's doing. The tease.
Number 4. Pick a topic at random from digging in the desert, cinema screenings, and audition prints.
And then failed to follow up on any of them.
Number 5. Pick a missing story and make it sound like there might be a chance it's been found. Under no circumstance be conclusive.
God, such as power, evil, or perhaps wheel?
Definitely.
Yeah.
He's done with all of those.
Web.
6. Finally, make a vaguely positive statement about possible future returns that make no actual promises.
Hey, Toby, I tell you something. I'm gonna blow some doors off. This one's gonna blow some doors off.
Yeah, indeed.
That's awful.
That was your Michael Caine impression, was it? Number 7. If unsure about crowd or co-speaker hostility, provide the following note. Dear convention organiser, Philip sadly won't be coming to the convention today. He's busy in an overseas archive. Joanne. I hope you found that as interesting as I did. Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
Oh, thanks very much, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
That's absolutely splendid.
Hey, Toby.
Stephen Moffat, yes.
Good. What are we talking about? Stephen Moffat. So, what did the Planet Mondas crew have to say about Series 7 and the specials, the anniversary, Richard, if anything?
I'm glad you asked me about that, because any moment now I might even have it up on the screen. So,
I'm glad you said, I'm glad you said on the screen.
So Martin Kinsella says, let's not forget Clara, although I wish I could. All bouncingly awful. Bow ties are cool, said, for me it all went wrong after Amy and Rory left. It just wasn't the same for me afterwards. I tried to warm to Clara, but she kept getting on my nerves. The Ginger Cat said, I think River Song was done to death. I suppose that's somewhat in the previous seasons as well. Didn't reckon much on that Paternoster gang
Yes.
with the comedy Centauran. Silly, childish, lame.
She was done to death backwards, though, wasn't she?
Well, that's true. I felt from Series 7 onwards, says Ginger Cat, he's not done yet, the show had become very junior Doctor Who, cartoonish, Scooby-Doo. And then Joseph, somewhat controversial figure on the forum recently, it was because of third-wave feminists who slandered and bullied Stephen Moffat from about 2012 onwards, and he started to pander to them at the expense of the show.
Well, I thought it was fourth wave feminists these days, anyway.
Well, I do you know, I looked it up because I don't know one wave of feminists from another, I have to say, but yeah, apparently there is a fourth wave.
So yeah, well, I think in response to Joseph's thing, first of all, I don't think it becomes overtly political until Series 10. Not like overtly, which we talked about before. But apart from that, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I quite like Series 7. But I don't know if we want a quick run through of it, so you can disagree with me or agree or whatever.
Bits of it.
Let's start off with Christmas, though. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
Well, it was better than the previous one. It's very, very slight. Ooh. Not much happens, but it's okay. And love saves the day. But it's not unpleasant. It's not the worst Christmas special by any means.
A lot of people think it is. Richard?
No, don't think so.
I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it. It's all right.
I think it's the best Christmas special there's been. I love it.
Okay.
Because I'm a warm, Christmassy sort of person.
Who doesn't like Catherine Jenkins?
Well, Catherine Jenkins isn't synonymous with Christmas.
True.
But, no, I love it. I think it's great. I love the Christmassy, Father Christmas, mad Doctor Who professory stuff. I think that's perfect for Christmas Day. And I think the rest of it is just, Christmassy Christmas. I like it. It's fine. I can forgive the love saves the day. It's the time of year you should have it.
Yeah,
I just thought it was an hour to lose yourself in a feel-good Christmassy thing.
Yeah, I mean, nothing says Christmas more than a bunch of Christmas trees. Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah. You get to marvel at Xander's massive ears, which is another one that you can't not look at once you've noticed it. KFC, big head, tiny body. Google that one if you've not seen it. Jeremy Beadle's withered hand. Gordon Brown's slack jaw when inhaling, and now Xander Armstrong's massive ears. So that's a bonus.
Yeah, having him in it always makes him seem a bit pointless to me, but anyway.
Oh! So we start off with Asylum of the Daleks.
Yeah.
And then Dinos on a Spaceship, Town Called Mercy, Power of Three.
So I liked Asylum of the Daleks. I particularly liked the introduction of Clara. Putting on. So we knew who she was.
Yeah.
But it put us off because we thought she's not supposed to be here yet.
Yeah, that was quite clever.
And we didn't know either.
Yeah.
It was the other thing that was
fact
surprising.
that she's a Dalek. I mean, that's rather with the egg whisk. That's rather clever.
Mm.
So I mean, actually, this is Moffat being Moffat-y, but in a good way.
Yeah, I didn't mind this one. It sort of plays around with the Daleks a bit, and there may be some people who don't like that.
Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, old chin balls.
I didn't like this much. It was a bit crap. And it was just a bit unpleasant too. It didn't do much for me.
I mean, I thought it was quite fun until the Doctor committed murder.
How? Why? Remind me.
Well, he basically takes... if he finds the bad guy and he decides he's going to off him for... I mean, he's...
Yeah.
It's the first Doctor. He's killed the first Doctor.
He killed David Bradley. Yeah.
Probably made a sexist joke or something.
Yeah, probably.
I don't mind it. It's quite, it's quite inoffensive for me, mostly. Town Called Mercy, Whithouse.
Yeah, I can't really remember it now, to be honest.
There's not a lot happens. It's just like the gunslinger bloke turns up.
I thought it was really good. I thought the production was fantastic. I thought Matt Smith was on fire. I thought that was really funny when he walks in and asks for tea and all that sort of stuff. No, I thought it was fine. I thought it was a good story. And then Chibnall again with the Power of Three.
Well, I don't really remember this, to be honest.
It's the invasion of the cubes.
That's right. Is Stephen Burkhoff in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So something went wrong at the end. Yeah, because it kind of makes sense most of the way through. And then
when Stephen Burkhoff turns up. Yeah. I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. I thought again we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stories here, and none of them are particularly offensive. Take or leave them. They're one-parters, so you can move on if you don't like it. And then we go into The Angels Take Manhattan.
Yeah, or as I've called it, The Angels Jump the Shark.
Yeah.
Reminded me a bit of like Back to the Future 3 in some ways.
It's another example of where Amy and Rory can't just leave.
Yeah.
There's got to be some earth-shattering reason why they're separated from the Doctor, and it frustrates me.
I just absolutely couldn't get into this. Once the Statue of Liberty shows up.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was the moment, wasn't it?
I think it's
that's
one
right,
of the
yeah.
most ill-conceived jokes. Or is it a joke? I don't know. I hope it's a joke, but I just think there was a cartoon going around of the Statue of Liberty tiptoeing through New York, trying not to stand on people. I just thought it was stupid. Incredibly stupid. Hey ho, Amy and Rory go. Reflections
Rory dies, by the way. Rory dies again.
So does Amy.
Yeah.
Reflections on their time?
Oh, Amy had her moments. Rory was a bit... I guess that Rory never really did much for me because he was dying most of the time. And he always came across as a bit of a wet blanket. But that's just because,
Good performance by
Arthur Darvill.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job, but the character just died all the time. It was...
So I liked her, but I mean, her character was subject to some weird twists and turns. Mainly Moffat's fault, but I thought that Karen Gillan did a good job.
I think they all did a good job myself, and I think it was a real pleasure watching them when they were, because Moffat can write some humorous sort of sparkling dialogue.
Yeah,
and I think when they were all firing, I quite like the comedy in there, and I think that's one thing that Moffat is a plus for me, is that if you take away the trivial things like the storylines and the character development, he can write some nice sparkling comedy. Or some light-hearted moments, and with three good performers. I thought that was probably my favourite thing of the era. It's a way that I've found to be entertained by the era, while absolutely despising everything that's going on.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so then we have the Snowmen, which I thought was great.
Yeah, Richard E. Grant was quite eerie and creepy, wasn't he? As Simeon, he was really sort of otherworldly, very much, and it was great to see the Great Intelligence back.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that shortly, actually. Yeah.
Clara dies.
Yes.
So she's written off then, is it? That's it. She's gone for good.
Yeah, that's right. Well, she's died twice now.
And then we get into the second half of Series 7. So the Bells of St. John, Rings of Akaten, Cold War, Hyde, and Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. I'll start on this one, why not?
Go on.
Bells of St. John, I enjoyed it at the time. I thought Wi-Fi, great sci-fi fodder.
Yeah.
Problem with the Wi-Fi? Not incredibly memorable, but it was okay.
Celia Imrie, was she in?
She was. Good
yes.
show.
So I do remember this, yes.
Yeah.
Motorbike up the side of the skyscraper.
And we get the first of Clara, proper. Rings of Akaten.
Oh,
this is despised. I'm not entirely sure
I
why.
hate this. I absolutely hate it because nothing much happens. It's ridiculous, and that kid singing gets right up my nose. It absolutely drives me to tears. Look, the good thing I'll say about it does look good. It's a very good-looking episode. But, God. Nothing much happens.
I didn't understand the bad reaction to this. I found it quite powerful. I wasn't too fond of the leaf thing.
No.
But Matt Smith did a good job, didn't he? With that speech at the end and all that stuff, and I thought the singing was fine.
See, this comes back to another thing that I'd point out about the Moffat era, is that he has these sort of gun writers who are... Neil Cross was well known for writing Luther. And generally his episodes here, and Matthew Graham, who did Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes, they're fairly well known. Richard Curtis even, but Richard Curtis is sort of separate from this. They don't get used very well, and their episodes are generally pretty mediocre. Apart from Simon Nye, who was basically known as a comedy writer, they're just a bit wasted, and it's just like, why have you got these guys writing for you? Oh, and there's Frank Cottrell Boyce, we'll talk about later. It's just like, they just don't seem to use them very well. Their stories are just rubbish.
Yeah. But Rings of Akaten, why do people hate it? Is it the singing?
Yeah, I think it's the singing.
Well, it's possibly also that's the son that turns into a person as well.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
But I think compared to other stories at the same time, it's pretty decent.
Yeah. So Michael, you're wrong.
I hate it. But anyway. I'm sure I'll have quite a few people who'll agree with me. Write in, people.
Cold War.
It's okay, I suppose. It's brilliant by Gator standards, but which again, faint praise. But it's okay. I didn't like the coming out of the armour bit. I just thought that was a bit odd. And look, it's always good to see David Warner. And it was a different setting. Like there was a Russian sub, which I think was around about the time that Russian sub went missing.
I found the David Warner stuff quite embarrassing, actually. He's absolutely tone deaf. And not only is he tone deaf, he's rhythmically deaf as well. So he's completely mangling those Duran Duran songs or whatever, Vienna. He just doesn't do that. Anyway, that got on my wick. Hyde. Oh, sorry. Go on, Richard.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, can I do a mic and say it's a little bit better than the Idiot's Lantern?
Hyde.
Well, this is better than the Rings of Akatan from Neil Cross, but it's a bit like the Stone Tape done Doctor Who style.
Yeah,
in some ways.
That's what they're going for, and that's okay.
Yeah, it was okay. But the one thing is Jessica Raine ever been in anything set in the present day? Like everything I've seen her.
She can be in whatever she likes for me.
Well, I agree.
She's in Line of Duty, Series 2.
Oh, is she? She was too.
Right at the very start.
Is she?
Yes, she was too. Yeah.
Does she get murdered?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Because I remember she was in that Christmas special for Inside Number 9 that was set in the 70s, and that was also Stone Tape-ish type Christmas ghost thing.
Yeah.
I
quite enjoyed that one, but it was a bit Love Saves the Day at the end again, wasn't
it? It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And the absolutely unforgivable pronunciation of Metabolis.
Yes.
Was Matt Smith such an ogre on set that they couldn't just say, no, hang on, let's just redo that. Metabolis. Anyway, and then we have, I think I can probably speak for all of us with Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS.
Have they got there yet?
It's Stephen Thompson. Most of his
awful.
scripts are pretty bad, and this is probably the worst of them.
What worse than Curse of the Black Spot?
Yes. Because it's just, I can't even. All I remember is there's these three blokes trying to get into the middle of the TARDIS, and that's about it. And that's all I can remember.
It's the worst journey to the centre of the TARDIS since Invasion of Time.
Yeah, well, it's much worse than that. Which is
I just remembered something good about this season.
Mm.
They produced these really good movie-style posters for each episode, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
And then we have two more notable episodes. So, The Crimson Horror, Nightmare in Silver.
Yeah, look, lots of people like The Crimson Horror. I'm certainly not one of them, and I think it's Gatiss thinks he can do a Hammer horror. And I've got to say this, Mark, if you're listening, you can't.
So I think horror is right.
Yeah.
Well, I liked it, and you're both wrong. Nightmare in Silver. Oh.
Yeah, Nightmare's right.
Yeah. I don't know what went wrong with this one. It's just, I don't know. Yeah.
It should have been great, but it wasn't. The kids didn't help.
No. And then we get on to the end of that particular series, the name of the Doctor, and then get into the Day of the Doctor and the Time of the Doctor, and we see out the Matt Smith era. Shall we deal with these together-ish?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know Day of the Doctor will have its own conversation, but Name of the Doctor, I liked it. I thought, and what I really liked was the resolution of the Clara story arc. I thought it made sense.
Yes.
I thought it was fine, and it was quite open and shut. Do you know what I mean? It didn't drag on over seasons like Moffat tried to do, and pretended that he'd seeded these things all along where he hadn't.
Yeah. It's the first season ending since the second one with the Dalek Cybermen shootout thing, where it kind of I thought actually it's a good end to the series. It makes sense. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
And then the Hurt tease at the end, that was
yes,
that was quite good. And then
quite spooky as well at the start.
In brief, as we get up to the anniversary, Night of the Doctor. Did anyone know it was coming? Did anyone know McGann was coming?
No, not until it was there, and I saw it and it was good.
I can't imagine that you could have done any more with 7 minutes or however long it was. It was fantastically well staged.
What was remarkable about that really was it just kept on layering the 50th.
Yeah.
It was another brilliant part of what was a wonderful year, I thought. Or a wonderful couple of months, anyway. What with Enemy and Web and all the hype and all of that. And we get on to the Day of the Doctor.
Which I don't like as much as you two, I think. Look, I don't dislike it. It's just that bit in the middle, the Elizabethan stuff, that sort of I don't like. But the Zygon thing, it just wastes the Zygons, and Tennant just sort of mugs too much in that bit. And it's just, but I must think that the Time War bit at the start is absolutely fantastic. In my opinion, it's probably some of the best bits ever. But yeah, look, it's not terrible, but I was slightly disappointed.
Humbug. Tell him he's wrong, Richard. Tell him he's wrong.
I was going to say you're probably going to complain about Richard Hurndall eating fruit in the middle of the Five Doctors as well. I mean, nothing is ever perfect, but I thought that was pretty good.
No. At least he wasn't sexist about the fruit.
No.
Oh, what a nice pair. Anyway, I thought it was great, Day of the Doctor. I was swept away by it. I forgave the entire era.
No, you didn't.
I did. Honestly, in my heart, I forgave it. I thought season 7 was pretty good. He's obviously learnt his mistake from his mistake. And can you kindly now leave?
That's probably when he should have gone, actually.
I thought it was a really good effort, an impossible job. He made the War Doctor thing work, didn't he? The Tom Baker thing made very little sense, but it was just magical. I thought it was a really
I liked seeing that there. I must admit that was good too.
It didn't have to work. It didn't.
No.
It didn't have to be anything other than a mad celebration, but he somehow made it work as well. The Zygon thing, I think he got the best out of them, frankly. Because I don't think once you've decided you're going to make them into sort of these things which snarl like terriers, I thought they had a good comic sort of presence, especially at the start. And I don't like what he does with them later on because I don't think they're used very well. I don't think they're very characterful. But I thought it was fine. I thought it was nice to see them back for the 50th. This classic monster. I thought it was good. And then we see off Matt Smith with Time of the Doctor.
This is pretty duff, most of it actually. Like some crazy things like wooden Cybermen and all that other sort of stuff. And I think it's sort of Christmassy enough, like it's in the town and stuff like that. But I don't know.
It's another one of your things you were talking about earlier, Tim, about it. However many hundreds of years he spends on the planet, and it feels like we've lived through most of them by the end of the story.
Yeah,
thousands.
It's pretty heavy going. Yeah.
But I was still in such a good place, forgiving. I was in my forgiveness phase at that point that I thought it was good, and I had a bit of a lump in the throat when Matt Smith signed off.
It was Christmassy, definitely. You can't get more Christmassy than a planet called Christmas.
Yeah. Matt Smith, I thought, was throughout the role, in spite of the writing. I thought he was great.
Yeah, I thought he was great too.
Very talented guy, very funny.
Yeah.
Could pull off
I
enormous
agree with that.
gravitas when he needed to. I just thought, what a good job he did as a young guy in one of his first major roles. I can't fault him, and he almost carries the 3 years.
I thought he was going to be terrible.
Yeah, so did I actually.
When I first saw him on that program when they were introducing him, I thought, oh, what the hell have they done? But as soon as he was on screen, and particularly with young Amelia in that first story, it was great, and I was happy with him all the way through after that.
Yeah.
Right, time for another letter. I will have a rummage in the mailbag for this one. And this one is from Nosy Neighbour of PMF. Is the native Paisley pronunciation of Moffat Muffet Yerbamput? That's what he's written. Muffet Yerbamput. By any chance the inspiration for the preoccupation of Bill's sexuality in Series 10? Michael, you're a resident Scot. What the hell is he talking about?
Well, the first part of it is sort of a lady's parts, I guess. And a band pot is, of course, an idiot.
So,
it's an obsession with ladies' parts, and they're an idiot, I guess. Oh, here a wee bum pot.
Good. Muffet,
one of those lovely Scottish words, bam pot. I love that.
Good. Nosy, no, is the answer.
Certainly not.
No.
And there's a PS. As you're talking about Moffat, was the inclusion of the great intelligence in the snowman informed by special knowledge that the web of fear had been found? Mike?
I would suggest yes.
Richard?
Well, the great Paul Venesis tells us that it certainly wasn't, and Moffat is therefore psychic.
Mm.
It absolutely was. So, PV, you're wrong. Anyone else, you're wrong. It absolutely 100% cast iron was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Of course it was.
And so we go on to the last leg, Series 8, 9, 10, grouped together for hopefully swift and cheerful discussion. Grouped together because it's the Capaldi era, but also we've discussed them in some depth already in the previous two episodes. And so we can deal with it relatively swiftly. Richard, what did the PMF gang have to say about this?
Okay, so from Bow Ties Are Cool, Capaldi was brilliant, but ultimately wasted in the role. Ginger Cat, similar stuff, mostly unlikable in his first series, embarrassing at times in the second with the electric guitar and sonic sunglasses, but pretty goodish by his third. Oh, well, so it's slightly different there. Missy should have been the Rani or a different character altogether. Probably come to that later on. Cyber Brig should have been banned from the get-go. True. Zarius, Series 8 was despairing dirge. Series 9 was my favourite series, next to 5. Series 10 is when everyone tuned out, he says. And Torchwood says Series 8 was probably the only finale that wasn't completely abysmal, Cyber Brig aside.
I don't think there was any series that I actually liked. In fact, I'd almost given up by Series 9. It was only because my daughters wanted to watch Series 10 that I actually watched it. And we actually watched it as a family. And even then I thought, oh, God, why am I doing this?
It was a funny old time, really, because, for me anyway, because I was quite buoyed having come out of the 50th.
Mm-hmm.
I was quite buoyed by the thought of a new, fresh start for Moffat, having forgiven the Series 5 ending and the Series 6 mess, with the story arc there. So I went to the cinema and watched Deep Breath. Now, I liked it, but you two didn't.
Oh, look, it wasn't bad. It just not a lot happened. And it was like, there's so little
TV.
plot, it could have been a Christmas special, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Without the Christmas bits. Look, it wasn't terrible. It looked okay.
I quite liked the first half, and then I felt the second half didn't live up to the promise of the
It had
first.
Strax in it too, which sort of kills it for me. But
I don't mind a bit of Strax.
Oh, I thought it was okay.
There's a Strax scene in The Snowman, which I find incredibly amusing. With the memory work.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that's lovely. I think that's great. Yeah, anyway. Quite liked it, and I was full of hope. Having left the cinema watching that, I thought, no, it's going to be straightforward storytelling. It's going to be just right.
Was there any highlights? So, well, there are highlights. There's Clara's dress in Robot of Sherwood. That red dress is quite spectacular. And Mummy on the Orient Express is all right, but apart from that, I can't really think of much else to say that's good about it.
I liked Listen. I thought it was an interesting premise, and it was. I mean, there was a bit of a funny end to it, but I thought, on the whole, pretty good story. Like you, I enjoyed Mummy on the Orient Express.
Yeah, even Frank Skinner was bearable in that.
I quite liked Time Heist. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I think that was Stephen Thompson, but I think a lot of that was written by Stephen Moffat. I think that's probably why it was okay.
Oh God.
But I agree that by the time it got to the end, it was disappointing. Well, it was worse than disappointing because of the Cyber Brig Cyber
and the
Danny.
romance.
Tasteless.
Like,
That's what it was.
I'm listening very carefully.
Clara Danny Pink romance was just like, oh God.
But at least Danny died. Well, until he became a Cyberman.
Until he got resurrected. I think you've both been far too kind about it.
Okay.
I liked Deep Breath. Deep Breath was okay. It was normal. And then I find myself getting confused with a couple of the episodes about whether I find them okay because they are a relief from the awfulness.
Okay.
So Robot of Sherwood, I didn't mind quite so much, apart from the irritating comedy characters. I didn't mind that quite so much because I felt relief. Time Heist, I felt relieved. Mummy on the Orient Express, that was good. That was okay. I loved the Queen cover in there. I thought that was lovely, and I thought the Mummy was excellently realised. Didn't really like the resolution. Flatline, that is marred by, the Danny Pink story arc, to include Listen, which I thought was abysmal. It made me angry throughout. Angry. I don't want to watch them dating.
No.
I don't want them... I just don't want to watch that.
No.
It's not what I'm tuning in to watch. This Danny Pink thing, we have this stupid storyline going throughout about soldiers and officers, and we keep revisiting that, and it's just so contrived. It's completely weird. It's so out of place. It's badly realised. It doesn't make sense. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I don't like the question and answer thing that Capaldi has going on. I'm lost for words with how sad and bad this series was. Lost for words.
Well, this series has probably the worst episode of Doctor Who
We
ever
have
made.
more unit stuff. Unit rubbish. Don't like the constant Lethbridge Stewart stuff going on. And it just snowballs to this awfulness of Cyberbrig at the end.
Oh, yes.
Again, you're just thinking, did no one think to say, can we just step back here for a moment?
Stephen, do you want to really rethink that one, mate?
Yeah. Flatline would have been okay. Apart from, you've got this ridiculous situation where you've got Clara fighting for her life, trying to escape these very original two-dimensional creatures. And then when she's fighting for her life, I think they're using one of those hanging chairs as a sort of wrecking ball to get out of the room they're in. She then has this hideous phone call with Danny. Where she's lying to him, being all lovey-dovey while she's fighting for her life. I just thought it was wheels come off.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wasn't a fan of Series 8.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed.
Series 9. Can anyone tell me what Every Christmas is Last Christmas means?
It's a Wham song, isn't it?
What does it mean? They keep saying Every Christmas is Last Christmas in the one called Last Christmas. What does that mean? Could someone write in? Could one of you listeners, if you haven't switched off yet, write in and explain to me what Every Christmas is Last Christmas means? But that was Dream Crabs and things.
I didn't mind that one, actually. I thought that was easily my favourite of Christmas specials, actually. Certainly after the god-awful crap that had gone on previously, it was quite good.
I was just going to say that clearly Clara should have gone at that point.
Does she die at the end?
Yes.
Or nearly die?
Yeah.
She nearly dies, or she's old.
Almost dies.
Yeah, she can't get back to it.
It's like cruelly teasing.
Yeah. But I mean, if she'd gone at that point, then I think everyone would have said, that was well realised and a good exit.
Anyway, Series 9, we have the Daleks two-parter. It's a series of two-parters, isn't it? Because everyone was crying out for two-parters. So it's the Davros two-parters, then the Toby Whithouse Under the Lake two-parter, and then a sort of two-parter, The Girl Who Died, The Woman Who Lived. And then, the bloody Zygon thing.
Oh, yeah.
Sleep No More, Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, Hell Bent.
There's not a lot to like in this. Heaven Sent, which was different. I think I had something to dislike about every other single episode, I think. There was something... It just did nothing for me at all. It was just very disappointing, in my opinion. The Dalek one is like the Davros thing. It was so contrived. You knew the kid was Davros. Like it was obvious from about the first minute that Davros was in. Just go, oh, that kid's going to be Davros. And I was just like, yeah.
I quite liked the first minute.
Yeah, but then it just sort of went downhill after that.
I'm more positive about this season. I mean, I wouldn't say I loved it, but I thought it was quite decent in places. The first the first part was trying a bit too hard, but Missy was good all the way through it. Love saves the day, I think, at the end. The Under the Lake Before the Flood thing from our favourite writer, Mr. Whithouse, again, I thought that was quite good. I mean, they do actually do a bit of time travel. They call out the bootstrap paradox thing that solves the problem, and
Yeah, look, I liked the first episode. The second episode was disappointing after the first one, I thought.
Yeah. If a story is going to be so complicated that you need exposition with the Capaldi talking, breaking the fourth wall, or whatever he does, explaining the bootstrap paradox, then it's too complicated for me.
Yeah.
Although it's quite, I think it's elegantly done with the old Beethoven thing. I think you could argue that you don't need it, but if you've got it, then I think that.
No, you probably do need it.
Doing it,
but you shouldn't need it. Is my point. Anyway, yeah, but it was okay. And then we've got the Ashilda.
The two-parter. Yeah, couldn't really give a monkey's about that one. Particularly the second one.
Yeah, and then the Zygon two-parter. What do we think of the Zygon two-parter?
I didn't think it was all that bad. The first one, the second one, I don't know. And I think that everybody goes on about the end speech, but I think it's slightly overrated. But I think the Zygons have a bit more to do in this one than they did in the 50th. But apart from that, I'm not so sure. It's lots of people seem to like it, but I feel that I don't overall. But I'm not sure. It's I don't know.
I'm one of those people. So I didn't love it, but I liked it.
Because it goes back to the audio stuff, really, doesn't it? The Zygon who fell to Earth and that type of stuff.
Complete and utter dross. Absolutely hated it from the very first moment. You've absolutely no chance of suspending your disbelief when you are told that there are X million Zygons integrated into the human race. I can't believe that. I think that
this was...
If there were 5,
yeah,
I could go with that. Or if there were 20, I could go with that. But when it's X million, it's just not... How are you supposed to relate to that situation? Because it simply isn't true. Apart from a really clumsy allegory about immigration.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit Brexit.
It's very, very clumsy.
I hate it. I hate UNIT. I hate the abuse of UNIT.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that pissed me off in the last series. All my father ever wanted was a salute from the Doctor, or whatever it was. No, he didn't. It just didn't. He just doesn't understand classic characters, Moffat. Anyway, that's that one.
He'd have been appalled, wouldn't he? Because you don't salute if you're not in uniform.
Thank you. Yeah. Sometimes he's president of the Earth, as fits. Sometimes he delegates responsibility because he can't be involved. It's not his planet. But sometimes he's president. It just... Sleep no more.
Oh, that's awful.
To cheer us all up. That was brilliant.
It was crap.
Oh, God, that was another bunch of talk.
Yes.
Not quite as good as the Idiot's Lab.
And then, Face the Raven, where Clara, once and for all, dies.
Yes.
Never to be seen again.
Yeah, so we hoped.
Yeah.
It was very Harry Potterish, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's about the only thing that was memorable about it, and Clara dying, and that was about it.
So when I was a lad, I went to a convention in Liverpool. Philip Martin was there, the writer of season 23. So he'd written the Syl story,
Mind Warp.
at the end of which Perry dies, and quite shockingly. And then about 5 episodes later, that masterful Pip and Jane Baker epic shows that in fact what happened was she fell in love with Hyrcanus, and she
I'm
was
in
all
love
right.
with Brian Blessed. I don't know who isn't.
Yeah.
She obviously her hearing had gone.
So
Dear listeners, try typing Brian Blessed on Gallifrey Base. See what happens. True story. Go and if you don't know what happens, go and type Brian Blessed on Gallifrey Base.
So anyway, Philip Martin is on stage and he's talking about this, and so I got to the question and answer. I said to him, "Well, that was flattering him. That was a great ending to Mind Warp. I mean, actually, I think it was a great ending. But I said, but how did it feel to have had the stuffing taken right out of it by just a few weeks later saying actually nothing happened? The whole kind of thing that you felt that you went through with Perry dying meant nothing, and he was pretty fed up actually. And I mean, I think subsequently I read that Nathan Turner put him up to it. He didn't necessarily want to do it, but he'd been told to do it, and he puts all that effort into it, and then of course it's nothing comes to it. And anyway, I mean, this is a really long-winded way of saying this is exactly what happens to Sarah Dollard here, who invests a lot of emotion in the idea that Clara is dying. It's well put together. It's a nice scene, and then it's completely undercut by what happens 2 weeks later.
Yeah, what a good parallel. Terrible. Heaven Sent, Hellbent.
Look, Heaven Sent was different. Heaven Sent was different. It was a one-hander, and it was quite good. I thought, because it was like this kind of mystery about what's going on. Having said that, compared to the rest of the season, it's pretty good. I think. I'm not sure how I would think about it if it had been in another time, but from that whole season, it seems quite good to me. I actually quite like that episode, but I think that once you know what it is, it doesn't stand up to further viewing. I don't.
Yeah, agreed. And it's got Tim's pet peeve in there as well, hasn't it? About it being
4.5 billion years.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, it felt to me like I'd been watching it for 4.5 billion years. So in that aspect, it was accurate.
Yeah, but compared to what came afterwards, it was a work of art.
It was like Groundhog Day, but turned up to 11.
Yes.
I mean, it would have taken long.
But compared to the next episode, it was good, because the next episode is dreadful beyond belief, in my opinion. Because you set up all this exposition and blah blah blah, and then he gets out into Gallifrey, and it's just bad.
Space diner, isn't it? We've got the space diner and the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the general changing sex thing, which I always took as being a fan wind-up. Those type of fans that don't like that sort of thing. I think he's just giving the old two fingers to people, which, from my opinion, is good on him for doing that. But I also think, do you really want to alienate your core audience? Like, I just don't see the point. And most of this is pointless, I think.
Yeah, I don't understand why Clara, is suddenly a sexy waitress in a diner. It doesn't really. There's no point to it, and it.
No.
I mean, other than the fact that Moffat fancied seeing her in a sexy waitress outfit in a diner. I mean, what's the point to it?
Husbands of River Song. And let's do the 2 Christmas specials, because we had a year off in between, didn't we? The Husbands of River Song and The Return of Dr. Mysterio. I didn't watch The Husbands of River Song until quite recently, because it had River Song in the title, but I thought I should, because I hadn't watched Twice Upon a Time either, and I watched them both. I didn't mind it as much as I thought I would.
It was Greg Davies is a bit over the top, but he's quite amusing. And the ending was quite touching. But as for The Return of Dr. Mysterio, I haven't actually watched that, so I can't actually comment on it.
Well, so Husbands of River Song I thought was funny, liked it, but it was forgettable.
Return of Dr. Mysterio.
I mean, I quite liked it first time round when it was Superman, and it was fine as Doctor Who.
I loved it. I really enjoyed it, apart from the last 10 minutes where he gets all mopey about River Song. Well, we're nearly there, and we've talked previously quite a lot about Series 10, so let's not dwell on it, because I think we're all in agreement it's a bag of poo. So there's one standout story, one standout episode rather, and that's World in Enough Time. So let's just focus on that and see if we can redeem something from this rotten Series 10.
Yes. Yeah, World in Enough Time I thought was really good. Except for one thing, that clanking noise that the Cybermen made, that just didn't ring true for me. But apart from that, I thought that was actually good. Easily the best episode of the whole series, but probably the whole 2 series put together, I think. The previous one. One of Capaldi's best episodes, but then, yeah, just sort of blew it all apart in the next episode, which was just terrible.
Yeah, which I've described the Doctor Falls as Little House on the Prairie meets Nightmare in Silver.
Well, I think the World in Enough Time is one of the best episodes of the run of the 50 years. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah.
With
brilliant.
No exception. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. But again, it's got so far to fall.
Well, the worst was to come too.
Sad, really, isn't it? Sad, because he's done 80 odd episodes, Moffat, and it's just sad that it's so apparently a spent force. Peter Capaldi, he's gone. I really wanted to like Peter Capaldi. I was at the announcement, and we didn't half cheer. Me and a couple of guys off Gallifrey Base went, and we didn't half cheer when it was him punching the air and thinking, how good is this going to be? And it couldn't have been further from the truth, sadly. And I don't think he was particularly brilliant in role. I don't think the script helped him, but I don't think he was particularly good. One thing that you cannot take away from him is how he threw himself at the role in terms of the extracurricular stuff. Talking to kids and writing to them and all that. And you can't help but doff your cap for that.
Yeah.
But I feel quite sad about it, really, because it would have been his dream role, and he's a lifelong fan, and he was just served rubbish. And then, so we all liked the Moffat era.
It is.
Well, look, I mean, there's some good stuff in there. I mean, we've all picked out things that we really liked, but it's the odd bit.
It's
here
picking
and
the
there
peanuts out of the poo, isn't it? If you pardon the expression.
And it's odd when you think that before he took over, he was the guy who was putting the peanuts in the previous era.
Okay, then let's wrap this up. So, using our very own PMF scoring system, our unique scoring system. So, Mike, your score on the Swanee whistle, if you please. Oh, 1.
Oh, it's past
4.
Higher than I thought.
4?
Yep.
Was that a 4, Mike?
Yes, it is, Tim.
The system works. Fait accompli. And over to Richard. A bit higher. 5?
Halfway.
Yeah. That's
Halfway.
Right.
That is
generous.
Okay, and pass me the Swanee whistle, Richard. Thank
okay,
you.
there you go.
And here we go.
My God, that was that's like one.
That was quick, wasn't it?
So what's that, like a Z?
I'll tell you what. I'll do it again.
Okay.
There we go. 2. Yeah. So the system works.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for that, fellas. Let's wrap up with a letter to finish off. Richard.
Okay, so I've got another letter from Keith.
Oh, is this about Liverpudlians by any chance?
There may be some Liverpudlians in it.
Okay.
Keith here again. Thanks for reading out my letter last time. I've just been watching my favourite Doctor Who episode, part 1 of The Chase. It's got Maureen O'Brien, John Scott Martin, and the Beatles in it. You'll never guess who I discovered also comes from Liverpool.
Go on.
Wait for it. Phil Morris. Anyway, here's a few jokes for you. What's a Scouser's favourite missing episode?
I don't know.
Scouser's favourite missing episode.
Or missing story. It's the Savages. Hey! Okay.
Oh, no.
I think it's the
Okay.
story code.
Oh God, that's awful.
What does the Scouser say when the... Oh dear. What does the Scouser say when the giant dog creature from Terminus falls over?
What?
Calm down! Calm down!
Oh dear. Well, then thank you very much.
And finally, why can't Phil Morris talk about his finds? He's under NDA, and as he says, they soon do, don't they do?
For anybody who doesn't understand these jokes, you have to go back and watch the Harry Enfield show, or Harry Enfield and Chums from the beginning.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
Do you think Keith will be writing in again?
Oh, I'm sure.
We have right.
somehow doubt
We
it.
have right of refusal to read them out, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Very good Liverpool stuff there. Okay, so that's it till next time, where we'll be talking about why we think Phil Morris has more Doctor Who and more missing stuff.
Are we done yet?
Bye! Well, there you are. What's first wave? Is that like Pankhurst and...
Oh, Pankhurst and then Jermaine Greer be second wave.
She's right. Okay, yeah. Ah, dear me. You hope there's going to be some sort of Central American feminist movement, don't you? Just south of the US.
So, feminista.
Or Feminista.
No. Sort of North American continental, but south of the US.
Right, so Mexico.
I'm not. Yeah. So that would be the Mexican wave of feminists.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm editing that out. Ooh. Mike, where's your ooh?
So
Mike,
when, ooh.
I want a really big ooh,
Alright.
so I can edit it in over mine.
All right. Okay. Ooh.
Oh, guys.